What if suddenly your title was stripped from you? What if those degrees, certifications, everything would be taken away? What would people call you? What would you call yourself? What would you do? Would you be lost? Well, I want you to think about what would you do if your titles, degrees, certifications were suddenly stripped away. Where would you go from there?
Welcome to the Licensed to Live show, where professionals, doctors, champions, VIPs, attorneys, and those in public office discover strategies that help you restart and gain what is lost when you find yourself accused. If another has doubted your integrity, questioned your credentials, or caused your actions to come under scrutiny, you are in the right place. On the other hand, if you have never felt the knot in the pit of your stomach when legal papers are served, the heartbreak of disappointing your family when the lock clicks shut on handcuffs, or had to appear before a board of review, then be aware, the longer you serve, the more likely you are to find yourself under the microscope of those who judge. Prepare yourself for this uncomfortable possibility. Now, here's your host, Dr. Jarrett Patton.
Welcome to this episode of Licensed to Live. My name is Dr. Jarrett Patton, and I'm your host for our journey together today and every day you choose to listen to this show. If you or anyone you know has been dissed in their career, please invite them to join us along this journey. Go to any podcast player and hit subscribe. Make sure you're just sending me honest feedback, topics you want to hear about. We will keep them rolling on this show. You guys already know that when I say dissed, what do I mean? I mean disgruntled, disrespected, disenfranchised, displaced. Any of those things, if they are affecting you, make sure that you are tuning in and tell a friend about it too. Today, we're going to talk about what happens when your titles get lost, you're stripped. Maybe you lose a job suddenly. I was recently in the TV studio doing an interview, and we got to talking about what to do when those titles go away. And I want you guys to think about this because this is something that I went through in my own life. And we'll get back to the meat of that conversation as soon as we get done finishing our sponsors.
Something smells good. EH3 coffee. EH3 coffee. Premium organic. Nothing better than waking up. EH3 in your cup. Premium organic. EH3 coffee. Nothing better than in the middle of your day. EH3 coffee. Premium organic. EH3 coffee.
Hey, this is Dr. Jarrett Patton. Do you need more positivity in your life? No matter what part of your life you want to transform, positive affirmations can help you achieve your goals. But sometimes making permanent changes can be difficult. Designed with you in mind, Licensed to Live. Daily affirmations to rebuild your life will inspire and equip you to become the best version of yourself. Licensed to Live. Daily affirmations to rebuild your life will set you on the path to changing your mindset, beliefs, speech, and ultimately your actions. You can change your life now by getting your copy at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your finer book retails, or licensedtolive.com. That's licensedtolive.com.
This is Super Bowl champion Mike Logan, and you are listening to Licensed to Live.
Guess what, folks? I want you to know that Licensed to Live, the conference, is coming back. It is back again in Philadelphia, July 8th, 9th, and 10th, 2022. We will be having a blockbuster lineup of speakers. We have an incredible VIP day set up for you, a VIP reception set up for you. We have some evening activities on the Saturday night. We are even getting CME credits. So all of you that are looking to get away a little bit, learn something fresh, tune up, and get that fresh start on your career, go to licensed2live.com right now and get your tickets while they are still on special. All right. Now, I've started off the show talking about what would you do if your title was suddenly stripped away. And the reason I asked this question to you is because that was a question that we discussed on a recent television interview I had. In fact, if you want to see the full interview on, I believe it was WFMZ, just go to the show notes. I have the link directly to WFMZ there. You can go to my YouTube channel. That is my Dr. Jarrett YouTube channel. For those of you that listen to my License to Live podcast channel on YouTube, it is on the Dr. Jarrett channel. And you find me there and all social media. Spell out Dr. JA2RSE1T. And you can see the interview. And it was a great interview on a workplace lesson segment. But it really has to do with what would you do if you don't have that title anymore? A lot of us get caught up on our job titles. Might be president, might be CEO, might be medical director, maybe nurse administrator. You may be any of these titles that people will often come up to you and address you by your title if they're not addressing you by your name. And sometimes people get a confused identity. And in fact, your persona takes on that identity based on your title all too often because, well, that's how people address you. People often address me as doctor because that's one of my titles. But they could easily call me an author, a podcaster, narrator. There's lots of titles that I could have, but there's lots of titles that all of us could have. But essentially, it are these titles that we identify ourselves with, these external titles that people put on our plates. And unfortunately, a lot of times people can't separate the two things. And it makes life kind of difficult if something happens to that title or something happens to that job. So a lot of what we talk about here on this show, in the courses and the conferences, is really about setting up yourself to have the best success in your life and in your work and getting that balance and integrating it all in there. And that's what we want to do. But for many people out there, it's a difficult road because it sounds easy to be in bliss and have all of that right in front of you, but it's not all that easy. Many times people falter or they fade away or they don't necessarily just go off into the sunset and people just never hear from them again. I'm just telling you to stand up and stand up proud, stand up tall, and appreciate all of those other things that are within you. The easiest way I say to separate your work identity from your own persona is really strip away that work identity and look at the other titles you have. You could be a son, a daughter. You could be a mother, a father. You could be a cousin, a friend, a confidant. There's so many titles people could put on you based on your skills, based on what people value within you, which you maybe even value within yourself. All of these titles are a part of you. And what you need to understand with these titles is that these are more important roles than any title you could have in your work life, because these titles, mother, father, brother, sister, cousin, son, daughter, all of these other titles are much more essential to your true identity. And that's the first thing I want you to think about. On my speaking travels, I was at a entrepreneurial conference where Martha Stewart was one of the other speakers. And it was great to have a moment to learn from such a household name and an icon and just be in her presence to see how she rolls in her everyday life, one as a professional speaker, but just as an identity. And Martha has an interesting story because, well, she is a household name. She had been on television. She had had brands. She was really a lifestyle, but she built her brand around herself, first and foremost. So she would always be Martha Stewart, and she would always live by what she calls Martha rules. And in her life as a super celebrity, a superstar, a household name, people recognize her all the time. They see the picture I have with her and they'll be like, oh, that's Martha Stewart. Who is that guy next to her? I'm like, that's me. People don't know, but Martha Stewart is a household name. And she realized that for her to continue her success, she was going to be Martha no matter what. And this became an incredible feat when she got into a little legal trouble. Many of you guys may have forgotten or don't even know, because Martha is still an extremely successful person, that she had to spend a little time in federal prison. It's something she called Camp Yale, affectionately. She said she could live, if she could survive 5 months in Camp Yale, she would be fine doing anything. So she had some funny stories about that. But she realized that, well, one, she probably should have never gone to prison in the first place, but the fact that she did wasn't going to detract her from her primary businesses. And one of the things that she realized is that, you know what? She's still Martha. Despite going to prison, when she came out, she was going to be Martha. And in fact, she used that as an impetus to become an even better Martha. And now Martha lives by her rules. And she said, I'm just going to do whatever Martha wants to do. And that sparks off, some collaborations that people looking at the Martha brand previously couldn't see coming. Like, Martha and Snoop Dogg getting together. I mean, Snoop, a rapper, maybe gang affiliated. He has a very, very different brand than Martha, but nonetheless, they came together and people loved it. And it's all about, well, Martha being Martha and Snoop being Snoop. So being strong with your identity and knowing who you are inside and out, and not being swayed by what other people put upon you, is one thing that you can do right now to prepare yourself for those sudden changes in life that seem to come out of nowhere. So make sure, if anything, you're thinking about Martha being Martha. And despite going through some very challenging times, she came back bigger and better than ever. And that's what I see for all of you fire starters out there. I want you to remember that. And now, another word from our sponsors.
The time is now to refresh your career. We help doctors, lawyers, executives, and VIPs refresh and restart. Dr. Jarrett's coaching helps you build confidence, gain more credibility, develop more leadership skills, and gain clarity in your career path. Want to climb the executive ladder or branch out on your own? We'll put your career in overdrive. Visit drjarrett.com and sign up for your free strategy session.
I know some of you guys have been seeing the television commercial. We have some television spots in the Philadelphia area. And this commercial is really just the audio version of the television commercial that's out there. And some of the feedback I've been getting about this commercial is that people think that I'm too big to approach. I am dead serious. If any of you need a question, want to respond, it's so simple to go to Time with Dr. Jarrett, get on my calendar, and you and I can talk, even if it's a simple strategy session to help you get on the right path. I actually had one just yesterday with a nurse practitioner who is really trying to find the next phase of her life. And she's actually done a good job of understanding her other roles outside of being a nurse practitioner or a nurse in general. She realizes and stresses importance on motherhood, and particularly motherhood as one of the other identities that she holds. So I have great conversations with people all the time. Don't hesitate to reach out. So the final point I want to bring out of this TV interview, and again, the full interview is on the show notes, so you guys can check that out, so you can see what we're talking about in Workplace Lessons on WFMZ. But the last thing I really want you to think about is that these titles are also can be bestowed on you by other entities. I might consider myself as a physician first, but if I go into Google considers myself as an author first, and then maybe as they categorize my film credit as well. So it's kind of funny where people think they are, but well, okay, I'm an author. I've written several books. You guys know about those, and that made me think about how I market myself a little bit different. I mean, I always talk about, being a physician and what it means for physicians, but it's not all about being a physician. It's really about being an employee and being employed and getting that balance in your life. So my final point for you guys today is, and maybe this is even more of an exercise, I really want you to just take a piece of paper and write down. Just take a moment. And I know some of you are driving, some of you are working out, but try to let this thought stay with you a little bit today. And just think about all of those other titles outside of your work titles that you have or someone could use to describe you. Descriptors or titles of yourself, and write all of those down. And when you write that list, then you're going to come up with a long list of things. If you really get into this exercise, you're going to have a long list of titles and things in which people identify you with. And look at that. It's going to probably make you smile, because there's going to be a lot of things on there that people see you in the role of that has nothing to do with your professional title. And most of those titles are going to be much more important. The ones that you write on the paper, that is, those are going to be much more important than the majority of the work titles that get placed upon you. So remember that as you move forward, because it's always about becoming the best version of you at the best time in your life. And that could be at any time, but you have to be ready for those moments, and you have to be ready to take action, and you have to be ready to say, hey, let's get out of here and get to this next level. And sometimes that can be scary, because if you do have the fortune of having a really big dream for yourself that seems like it's so out of reach, you don't realize how close you are to that dream yet. And it's important that you take another step every single day in pursuit of that dream. Don't let people deter you. Don't let people distract you. And you keep taking steps forward that will get you there. I guarantee that your real life will be bigger than any dream you've ever had. Remember, Fire Starters, if you or anyone you know has been dissed, please invite them to join us along this journey. Simply go to your favorite podcast player and subscribe to License to Live. And make sure in between episodes, you connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram. I tend to hang out in these places in between, so you just see all the things I'm doing in between creating these episodes for you. Check me out at Dr. Jared across social media. And until then, we will see you next time.
No matter how disheartening the moment of accusation sounds, how deep the pain of immobilization stabs, or how bleak your future looks, no one can take away your license to live. Keep Dr. Jared's expertise handy and unlock your future. Go to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or another podcast player and subscribe right now to Licensed to Live. See you next time.